gentleman from Blunt County for making the facility available to us this morning. It's an impressive facility. Oh, can y'all hear me in the back? Yeah. Okay, very well. I'd like to ask Director Standridge to do our invocation this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd just like to say welcome to Blount County. This is my home county. I live about 10 minutes away from here. Matter of fact, between here and Hayden. And we are, as you can see, we have a beautiful county. It's a great place to live. Quality of life here is great. And in this facility that we're in, we're really proud of it. It's probably been in it year and a half, something like that. And in this facility, and the county commission worked really hard with partners from all the different towns and the legislative delegation and private input. And the county commission built this facility with no debt to the county. And so the financial impact is just the daily operation, and it stays very busy. This room that we're in, the wall in the back, it will expand and make this twice the size if it needs to be. So when we have larger events, and of course it has an arena that's used for like livestock shows and things like that. It also has an outside arena that can be used for rodeos, and recently they had like a tractor pull out there. I think it's the largest outside arena in Alabama, matter of fact. So anyway, it's continuing to grow, and more plans are in the way for it. But anyway, welcome, on behalf of Blount County to this facility. Let us pray. Lord, thank you for this opportunity to serve. Thank you for this body that we have, and please be with our work. Please give us wisdom as we go forward. Please be with our staff and the administration here. Please help them and touch them. Give them the ability to make wise decisions for the people. We just do a special prayer for our first responders as they do their work, and our military as we're involved in conflicts in the world. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you, Mr. Standridge. I'd like to ask Mr. Jim Porter to come up and parliamentarian this morning. And I'd like to call our roll. Director Patrick. Here. Director Tyson. Director Wiedemeyer. Here. Director Morris. Here. Director Brumlow. Here. And Director Standridge. Here. I'd like to have a motion to approve our agenda. Yes.
Well, that's fine, but you got that though?
Yes. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Second.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make an amendment to the agenda to add
Item 11. Retain the law firm of Betts and Bevel to file a claim on behalf of Central Alabama Works in the Discover Card interchange fee antitrust litigation. Class action for Discover Card overcharges for the period between 2007 and 2023. I make a motion to add this to that item 11.
I'll second. Any discussion?
Can y'all hear me?
All. Call for, yes.
And this is, the reason it's not on the agenda is I got a call late Friday afternoon from the law firm about this matter. The class filing deadline is May 18th, so we couldn't wait any longer. So I'm sorry I don't have anything in writing for you. I have the contract with Betts and Bevel. They are
representing us on this on Friday in the MasterCard Visa litigation, where we filed a claim on that. It's a different period of time. That's what this is. Again, I hate so late, I haven't even had a chance to talk to Jeff Thompson about it. So y'all are hearing about it today. If we don't do this today, we're gonna get 100% zero. Okay, if we file something, we stand the possibility of getting some credit card payment overcharges back for that period of time.
Okay, thank you very much. On call for a vote, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
So item 11 is on the agenda as amended.
Next is
So we need to
to,
do it.
And, Mr. Chairman, I'll move adoption of the agenda as
yeah,
amended.
vote on the agenda to have a motion.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
any discussion? Call for a vote, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, the agenda is adopted. Approval of minutes, this will be several minutes, we'll take those all as item one, which are on our agenda. Do I have a motion?
Move the adoption of items 1.1 through 1.5.
Okay, have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call for a vote, all in favor of approving the minutes from 1.1 through 1.5, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Okay, next is request the board to hear a budget presentation for fiscal year 2026, the first quarter.
Good morning, my name is Lester Smith, and I serve as Chief Financial Officer for Central Alabama Water. Today, I know the agenda says a budget presentation. Can you hear me okay, or do I need the mic? You need the mic. I need the mic, okay? No, So,
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, my apologies. So what we'll be presenting today is the first quarter financial review. This will be the actuals compared to budget and actuals to actuals for the first quarter of the year, for the 3 months ending March 31st, 2026. As we get into the budget, one thing that I want to remind everybody of is the initial budget was approved in December 2025. Then we came back with a revised budget in March of 2026. The results that you're going to see today are going to be the actuals compared to the budget of 2025 for the first 3 months of this year. Does that make sense? We're going to start with a overview, high-level overview. Yes,
I'll
sir.
move the bag.
Tell you what, I can come out front. I feel better anyway being out front.
Maybe a little. That works.
So we'll start out with a high-level overview, and then we'll drop down to the details. We'll get into the details of the revenues, we'll get into the details of the expenses, then we're going to end up looking at staffing, FTEs, where do we stand as of March 31st, 2026 to our budget. We'll also look at a comparison to 2025 actuals. We'll look at a summary of our key operating variances, primarily in the two areas, chemicals as well as power. Those are items that Jeff mentioned during the budget presentation in March that we needed to at least stay focused on due to external conditions and how they might affect those prices. Then we'll do a high-level overview of our capital expenditure projects, for first quarter of the year, and we'll look at our cash position. When we look at our overview of revenue and expenses, what I want to remind everybody of, when we look at revenue, revenue was set in the original budget that was approved December of 2025. When we came back and we did our revised budget, we did not touch revenue. And if you all recall, the revenue was held flat this year. There was no rate increase. Our operating revenue was developed by Raftellus. They are the ones that actually sat down, went through the rate setting process with the board, and then determined what that revenue is going to be. When we think about revenue and when we think about expenses, there's only 3 accounts or categories that are seasonalized here. Revenue from a budgeting standpoint is seasonalized. Okay, it fluctuates with demand. At the same time, when we get into operating expenses, chemicals and power are seasonalized, right? All other expenditures are straight line. We take the total cost of a line item and then we divide it by 12, okay? So when we look at some of the differences and the variance, especially as it relates to expenditures, this early in the budget process, this early in the year, financial results, we're not ready to commit to say which of these variances could be permanent and which of these variances are still timing, right? We'll have a clearer understanding of that as we move forward in the year. If you look here, your operating revenue, the actuals came in for the first quarter at $51.2 million. That represents approximately 22% of the budget. That actual at 51.2 is $3.6 million below our budget of $54.9 million. Talk a little bit about that in just a moment. O&M expenses, our year-to-date expenses came in at $32 million, represents 25% of our budget thus far, against a budget of $34 million, which that is a positive variance, as we would say. Our expenditures are below what we budgeted. So that's a $2.1 million differential. If we look at that, for the first 3 months of the year, we are pretty much flat. We're $1.5 million below a budget of $20.8 million in net operating revenue for a total actuals of $19.3 million. Okay? Let's talk about operating revenue. As you see down here at the bottom, our operating revenue for the first 3 months is $51.2 million against the budget of $54.9. That's a 7.1% decrease for the $3.6 million variance. The main drivers of that are going to be in residential and commercial, right? Residential, if you look year-to-date at $26 million, is below budget of $29 million by $3.3 million. Okay, commercial is trending less at $797,000 against budget. In conversations with Raftellus, what Raftellus has said is that they believe that the projection that they had actually prepared during the budget for 2026, that this is more of a timing issue. The amount that they prepared in that first quarter, a lot of those revenues you'll start to see in the second, third, and fourth quarter. I'll touch on this at the end of the presentation. As you all know, we have a rate setting workshop coming up May 29th. Raftellus will be at that workshop, and they said if you'll just bear with them, they'll have some additional information relative to this variance. I'll highlight that if you look at from actual to budget, if we go year to date, we look at the 3 months for the year to date of March 31, 2026, to year to date 2025, you'll see that the difference between the 26 revenue and the 25 revenue is right at $593,000 under budget, year-over-year decrease, which is only 1.2%. If we look at both residential and commercial, now comparing year to year instead of actual to budget, you'll see that we're much more in line, right? You'll see that the residential, we're only under trending down to 2025 of $445,000, and commercials down $272,000. Yes, sir.
How much of that can be attributed to the economy during the first quarter.
So when I spoke with Piper about this, he seemed to think that more of it had to do with consumption. It was more how the revenue was projected. And that, as you well know, if you project more of the revenue, especially to hit out in that third tier, and you don't hit it, then it has a greater impact. But once again, what we've been told is that he needs some time to reevaluate the projections that were provided, and he'll have some more detailed information. That's a good question. We definitely need to remember to ask that.
So the percentage to residential is down 12.8. Is that basically collections?
We don't believe so. When we look at, for example, if we go back and we actually look at the delta there, it's against budget. We think, Mr. Patton, that the primary driver of the budget there is just in the actual projection that was done. Piper feels like that when you look at year over year, 26 budget to 25 budget, that he strongly feels like it was just a allocation of too much budgeted revenue in that first quarter. More of it should have been in the second and third.
Okay.
But we'll have a clear understanding once they present at the workshop.
Lester, can I get just one clarification from on that particular screen?
Yes.
The year-to-date 2026 budget, or total operating revenue of $51,272,183 for 2026, is that the amended budget, or is that the original budget that was originally adopted?
What's being presented here, keep in mind the original budget that was passed in December, we were operating under it in January, February, and March.
Okay.
So these results here are reflected. The reason it's reflective of that budget that got approved in December is because there were a different set of circumstances and conditions that existed in that first quarter that does not exist later in this year.
So as this budget year goes on, we get more of these updates on these financials, we should be seeing it more compared to the amended budget that was adopted in March. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir. Now, what I want to make everybody aware of is the revised budget was actually approved March 20th, right? So when you think of the reduction in force that occurred, if you recall when we presented that budget, we talked about, hey, for this year, we're only looking at about a 2026 impact of maybe 11 million. Next year, we'd have a much larger impact of 20. Part of that, we have to remember that there was severance packages offered to the individuals that were part of that reduction in force. What that means is the actual reduction in force occurred March 13th, right? But severance is going to continue out for 8 weeks into middle May. You're going to start seeing the greater majority of those savings, I would say, from end of May, definitely June till the end of the year, okay?
Thank you. That helps me understand. I'm happy to hear that we get severance packages as well for those who are involved in the reduction in force, and that we budgeted for those in this year. So thank you.
But from here on out, we'll have a new budget, a revised budget.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So now what we'll do is we'll move to operating maintenance expenses here. We're going to start out once again with comparison of budget. If we look at operating expenses, our actual year-to-date are coming in at about 27 million against a budget of about 27.9. I've got to get to some of my detailed information here. So the total difference between the actual expenses of 27 million to the budget of 27.9, that's only roughly about $873,000. It's still savings and it's good savings. What I will say is the majority of those savings, and if you look up, you're going to see a lot of pluses and minuses here, right? And we go into each of these line items and drill down to what the actual drivers are. But if we look at just the total operating expenditures here. The majority of that $873,000 is being driven by reduction in consulting fees of about $697,000 and supplies of $166,000. Now, there are other reductions that are taking place here, right? We've got some labor reductions in some of these categories, but the overall driver to get at the $873,000 are those two items there. When we look at maintenance expenses, total maintenance, if you see, we came in at $4.9 million in actual against a budget of $6.2. Okay, that's a decrease of $1.2 million in cost, or 25.2%. Now, I caution everyone to remember, we're not sure how much of this could be time, right? We'll have a clearer understanding of that as we transition through into the year. Our total operating and maintenance expenses, though, it's really is what's keeping us on track due to the current projected revenue decrease for the first year of $2.1 million, or a 6.6 reduction in actual cost compared to budget. If we look at year over year, what you'll see here, and this is some good information. I know that we still have some timing issues that we've got to be aware of, but if you look here, your operating expenses year-to-date 2026 to year-to-date 2025, they came in at $27 million compared to 2025 at $28.6. That's a $1.5 million decrease, or a 5.7 cost savings year over year. We look at maintenance expenses. Maintenance expenses for year-to-date 2026 came in at $4.9 million. Compared to last year, it was $7.3. That's about a $2.3 million reduction. The main drivers here, when we look at this, if we go back up to operating, the the $1.5 million, that's primarily in the area of consulting, again, of $688,000 in savings, chemicals of $311,000, and labor of $393,000. Your maintenance that we're looking at, majority of that, as you can see, is in the area of transmission and distribution, about $1.9 million. $733,000 is a reduction in labor costs. And then we've got about another, what I call, contractor services in the area of paving and maintenance that equates to about $1.1 million.
So before you go to the next slide.
Yes, sir.
Administrative and general.
Yes, sir.
What's included in that? Would travel be included in that?
Travel would be included in that.
Would travel of board members be included in that?
If we're looking at year-to-date 2025, yes, sir. I think the better question is it included in the 2026 budget?
Okay.
So travel for the board was included in the budget that was passed in December. There was approximately $32,000 included in that budget.
So what was the year before that the budget for travel?
That amount I'd have to give for you, Mr. Patton. I'm not prepared to answer that.
Was there a reduction in travel for the board?
Yes, sir. There was a,
Yes or no?
yes, sir.
Was it approved by the board?
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you.
Let me answer that. It would have been approved by the board when the board approved the revised budget in March. And I'll give you some context of that, Mr. Patton. When we first passed the budget, we'll talk about this a little bit later when we get to the last slide, and we'll talk about what we went through with the credit rating agencies. We were sitting there and we looked at the budget, the original.
Who is we? We were sitting there. Who is we? The staff,
The staff,
not the
the
board.
executive, not the board.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so as we were sitting there, and we said we're going to come back and present a revised budget, okay? The budget at that time stood at $139 million. Our revised budget that we came back and was passed in March was passed at $126 million, right? We knew that we needed to do that given the current cash position that we were in. Liquidity was an issue. So one of the things that we looked at, one of the first things that you always look at, which is the best practice, is identify what are deemed non-critical expenditures. One of the areas that gets looked at first is travel. The second is training. Now, when you look at training, training is going to be divided between necessary training, right? It may be training that's required for engineers or other individuals that need professional licensing to keep that licensing up. And then there's other ancillary training that you say, it's good training to have, but it's not critical to operations in 2026. And so what happened in that case was training was evaluated and training was reduced. So at that point in time, the $32,000 that was in the budget for board training, it was reduced with a caveat that we will evaluate training and travel in 2027 to determine what to add back. I don't know that that answers your questions.
So if there are a number of hours that are required of the board, for instance, training, and the budget was cut, would we be able to meet that goal? Yes or no?
I would say it would depend.
It depends on,
Where you get the training at. So training, for example, a lot of times what we do within an organization, we'll say, hey, we're going to allow training, but we're not, as I used to say, we're not going to allow training that allows you to cross the Chattahoochee to Tennessee or to Mississippi. It's got to be local training. So if you could obtain that local training, that's fine. If the only way you can obtain that is to travel, then I would answer your question with no.
so there's a training in Washington in June
Yes, sir.
for like 3 or 4 days.
Yes, sir.
And it's supposed to be one of the best training that's done. So how can the board attend, or can the board attend with a budget of how much now? Would the board be able to attend that meeting?
Based on what the current budget is, the answer would be no, because it's not a budgeted expense.
Let me say this, I've been talking about AWWA, y'all know it since back early fall. We need to go ahead and training, I talked about it.
Yes, sir.
George called the other day, I talked to the board, they said they eliminated it. That's sort of disrespect, I mean, why didn't y'all let us know that you eliminated it? Of all people tell us, and I won't be telling all these guys, y'all need to go, well, they eliminated it. And I think that's where we're going with it. It's just, the communication was awful, and I'm really disappointed in whoever did not communicate with this board.
So Lester, let me ask this question. Can we come back with a budget amendment next month to allow for training at AWWA?
Yes, sir, you can.
All right, so can we make that happen?
The thing is next month.
Well, I understand, but we have a meeting, I think, June 8th, maybe before that, or we can call it special board meeting. I just want to make sure, because I do, Bill has constantly said that AWWA is for training for the board, particularly the training we're required to have by law, which they specifically do at the ACE conference, is a critical part of what we do. Plus, it allows us to meet with other board members around the country and talk with them about things they're experiencing, so we can bring that experience back here. So, and I can't make this direction as a director. I can just tell you, I would ask that you and Jeff get together and come up with a budget amendment that would allow for any board member who wishes to go to AWWA to have that cost covered. I don't think it's a huge cost compared to what we've been spending on a whole lot of other things, but it is one of those costs that I think every board member needs to have that opportunity to go to that particular training. And hopefully y'all come back with a recommendation for that we can do, either a special call meeting or just for that purpose, or handle it the next board meeting, knowing that I think most of the board members here agree with that particular line item being something that should be carried on by the board.
The training is scheduled for June
21st, I believe, 21st and 22nd, 23rd, I think is the.
Okay, and this is where the hotels fill up real quickly.
Yeah, I think they do.
This is where, so how long is this going to take? And what really disturbs me is, you can move 99% of all the money courtesy to the board. To me, it was blatant disrespect that you cut the budget from I don't know what to I don't know what. Not even saying we're thinking about doing it, we might do it. It's okay for us to do it. I think that was just blatant disrespect for the Lord. And we have no say so in it, is that right? Other than now we come back and amend something to add to it. But there was no consideration given at all, in my opinion. So now, I want to be sure we're on the same page. So, your recommendation is what now?
We find a way to amend the budget, move the money around for the board to attend AWWA if a board member wishes to go, and be reimbursed for those costs and those expenses.
And how much time are we giving them?
It needs to be short, because I think we got to make reservations. I was talking to Bill before we started our meeting about where they're staying.
Okay, so being short doesn't give me a time.
Yeah, I understand. I don't know how long it takes, Director Patton.
How many days, Bill, will we be in Washington? How many days?
Sunday through Thursday. Thursday, right, or Wednesday? Thursday.
Is it 5 days or 4 days? Is it 4 or 5 days?
I think it's
You're flying in on Sunday, and I think it ends Thursday morning, right?
Right, I know it ends Thursday.
Wednesday night,
Okay, so you gotta fly out Thursday.
Okay. So, can that be done, expeditiously, sir? Or he's looking over there now? Shan?
What's the process?
Well, I mean, okay. I mean, I think it would, I'm gonna make it sound simple, but I'm not the finance guy, okay? But you're gonna have to amend the budget somewhere. You got to move something from one line item to another, or you're gonna have to add revenue somewhere, right?
Well, so what we'll end up having to do is it'll be a budget increase, right? But it's only gonna be roughly, does anybody have an idea of what it'll cost per participant?
Yes, $4,000.
How much?
$4,000.
So,
Okay.
so we just need to know how many board members want to attend, and we'll make it happen. You go ahead and make your reservation at your hotel, book your flights, and we'll make it happen, and it'll be in the
And I would say you would then, you could today, I mean, I don't know why you need a special call meeting, you could amend your agenda if you wanted to add a line item for, how many of you are going? Right?
We need to also look at the agenda to see when the training, takes place at the meeting, and perhaps, make our travel to include that.
I did look at it. I think
I mean, how do we say?
We flying Sunday, and you got Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday where they have the sessions that you can go to.
We
You know,
can,
game.
we can move the money. That's not going to be a problem.
So what do you need, 28,000?
I just need to know how many board members are going. How many-
I would budget for all 7, but Director Tyson's not here. We certainly want to ask her and have her input on that. I would just budget for all, if we don't use it all, we'll just go back in.
So 7 times 4 is 28.
So I think what you would do, rather than have a special call meeting, at some point, you would amend your agenda to add item 12, to amend the budget to allow board travel of $28,000 for the AWWA conference, and then you would have the budget.
So let's do a budget adjustment.
Jeff said there's no reason for a special meeting, that we'll make it happen.
I still think you need to amend the budget to add, the board needs to amend the budget to add director travel of $28,000.
Chairman, I make a motion to add an item to the agenda, item 12, to amend the budget in the amount of $28,000 for travel purposes to the AWWA convention in June for the director.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion, Director Weemeyer, would you consider making part of that subject to the rules and regulations and travel that's in our current policy? they say what type of flight.
And if you check that quickly,
I will, and Jeff says, the board didn't adopt a budget at the line item level, for granularity, we can move funds. But, I mean, I don't recall how you amended that budget. We've already done it, so I think just from a safety standpoint, let's just amend the budget as of travel, okay? And we don't need to get with Jeff and we'll talk about that, but since we've talked about that. And while y'all go on to the next item, by the time you vote on this, I'll tell you what the bylaws say, okay?
everything should always be subject to the bylaws.
Travel policy, that's all I'm saying.
I don't remember anything being addressed about travel and bylaws.
Vote on that motion.
No, I mean, you can add, go ahead and add it to your agenda and then we'll discuss it and how we'll.
Let's add it to the agenda, but we've got the motion to have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Item 12, voting travel is added.
Closing up on O&M expenses, we'll see that our total O&M expenses year-to-date is actually down $3.9 million compared to the first quarter of last year, 12.3% reduction. If we look at our full-time employees, you'll see the trend going back in time. 2025, we're at 724 LTEs. If you look all the way to the right, you'll see the revised 2026 budget was approved at 463 LTEs, which puts us currently at filled positions at about 440 LTEs. Compare that to 2025, that's roughly about a 284 LTE reduction. Okay. When we compare now where we are at actual positions filled, the total positions, we're down 23 positions, right? That's roughly about 4%. If you look at the labor and bureau statistics, most entities are always running with a vacancy ratio of about 4 percentage points. You will always have natural attrition that occurs. It's going to always be difficult to be staffed 100%. Okay.
So let me ask you a question. So 2025, 724 employees. As of March 31st, 440 employees. That's right. Almost 300 employees. The size of the operation and what's required to do with respect to performance, we come in third of, sounds like a third of the workforce. So how does that impact the workforce?
So the 724 was as of 2025. At the time of the reduction in force, we're around 680 LTEs, right? And of that 680, I believe that's roughly what the number was. 76 of those were vacant positions. They were just vacant positions. They weren't active.
76%.
No, 76 positions out of that 690. So the actual reduction in force that we had was right around 135 headcount. Okay. When we look at this and we compare this to, as Jeff has mentioned several times, and we go back and we look historically, 440 is a number that we look at, I believe Jeff said, was in the 1990s, I think. So when you look at the operations, the question then becomes, as a result of that reduction in force, how many of those positions were critical positions to the ongoing operations of the unit? Okay. When we look at chemical expenses, this is one of the items that I told you we're going to start to track because of the impact of what's going on, especially over in the Middle East. You'll see that our year-to-date March 2026 actuals are in at $1.8 million against a budget of $1.7 million. If you look for the first quarter, that's slightly under about $2 million per quarter. If you extrapolated that, I know that it's seasonal, but that would get you up close to about $8.2 million relative for the year. We'll continue to monitor this and report on this as we continue. Yes, sir.
that taking the fluoride out? I mean, that's half the number as well.
Yes. That's correct.
I recall several recent meetings, we approved contracts for chemicals that were significant reduction. Are those contracts, are those fixed prices, or are there escalation provisions in there that would cause those expenses to increase?
So if we see the raw materials are increasing due to the conflict overseas or any other reason, if the raw materials start to increase, the vendor has an opportunity to come back to us and demonstrate to us that the raw material is increasing, and then we will work with them to begin those projects. So yes, sir, we did see that, just like with power consumption, that goes down prices connected to bonds and the conflict we're seeing increase there. But at this time, we haven't had any of that come back to us. We anticipate we may see some of that at some point. We anticipate that.
Can I ask y'all, people that aren't here can't hear because you're not using the microphone, so if you could try to use the microphones to speak. Everybody.
Utility expense, same situation, the actuals for the first quarter of $3 million, $2.8. That's like $200,000 over the budget. One thing to note here is if you look at our actual spending for 2025, it's $11.5 million. We budgeted 13.2, that 13.2 is carried over to 2026. So we feel like that as it relates to 2026, we've got some availability there, right, to cover any increases in that. Capital expenditures, this is a high-level overview of capital expenditures. We'll be coming back in the month of June to present a more detailed presentation on capital expenditures, especially relative to individual projects and status of completion on those individual projects. If you look here, we want to remind everybody that the 2025 budget started out with CapEx of about $115 million. The 2026 budget that was approved in December of 2025 dropped that to $75 million. The revised budget that was passed in March of 2026 is at $35 million. Okay. One of the things you'll notice in a minute is as you reduce the CapEx spend, it does have an impact on Central Alabama Water Utility, right? Because currently, except for a few projects that are reimbursable from either WIFIA or SRF loans, we're having to pay for these capital expenditures out of our operational income. Okay? If you look at the first quarter, you'll see that our capital projects have been front-end loaded. We're currently at about 29.5% of our spend for the first quarter of this year. Now, this does not include any monies that we would have coming back to us due to projects that are qualified under WIFIA. Okay, and I think what we have calculated is roughly around $4 million in requisitions that we would have coming back from WIFIA. As I said, we'll have to have all information as we get to you. Cash position, let's talk cash position. Cash position, this is as of March 31st, 2026. You'll see our total trustee funds and cash all in at $135 million. When we start looking at calculation of days cash on hand, the next thing we have to do is we have to pull out any restricted cash. The restricted cash that we look at are any restrictions that are placed by either Central Alabama Water's indenture or RAB document. One thing to note here, and these restrictions are restrictions in effect as of March 31st. That's important. I'll tell you one. So restrictions here, you see our WIFIA draws. Currently, any WIFIA draws we get, we have to restrict until the RAB is paid off or fully funded for payoff. RAB proceeds are also restricted. Those monies have to be set aside and can only be used for qualifying projects over the WIFIA program. Your debt reserve payment, that's of special interest because those are your restricted funds that are set aside monthly for payment when they come due. Our largest payment is always in January. So if you read the little caveat down at the bottom, is your monthly debt service accrual is 1/12 of your next annual principal payment and 1/6 of the next interest payment. So what we want to take away from here is our current cash position. Even though we show that we've got about 56.6 million set aside for RAB, the full amount has been set aside, right? So we've got a total of 63 million already that has been set aside for payment of that RAB September 1, okay? At the same time, we're on track for the principal and interest bond payment that's due January of next year. So that's good news. When we look at the restrictions, we back it out of our total trustee funds and cash. We come up with unrestricted funds of 60 million. Now, the other caveat to note is as long as you continue to reduce your operating expenses, you drive up your days cash on hand, right? Because you don't have as much money that you need to spend, which doesn't put as much money on your unrestricted cash balance. So the days cash on hand calculated here is 175. What I want to make everybody aware of is each credit rating agency has a different formula for how they calculate days cash on hand. The one that is reflected here is Moody's, okay? A couple of things to point out. Your days cash on hand is at 175. If you look here, Moody's AA criteria is a range of 150 to 250 days on hand. So you're kind of right there in the middle. Now, these credit rating agencies do reserve the rights to even further reduce that calculation. What I do want everybody to keep in mind is that when you run and you calculate your days cash on hand, you do not include any cash held in the debt service that we've already talked about. And you cannot include unspent bond proceeds. So if you receive bond proceeds, you haven't spent any of them yet, that cannot be used in calculating the days cash on hand. And of course, you can't take into account any cash restricted capital. But when you look at this 175, it's going to differ between which credit rating agency calculates that. The last thing I'll leave you with on this slide is there's a difference between looking at days cash on hand to meet operating expenditures and looking at how much do I have cash on hand to meet all my expenditures, including pay-go. Okay?
Lester, if I could
Yes, sir.
quick a question on that. What is S&P's days of cash on hand? Is it different than Moody's?
Yes, sir.
As far as their calculation?
Yes, sir. Much lower. Okay? Now, keep in mind what they do is their calculation down here doesn't allow you to take into account customer deposits. Okay? So there's some nuances that are different. Okay? So they are going to differ. The main thing is to understand how it's calculated, and really to understand how it's calculated, see how it differs from how you manage your daily cash to run your operations, both from a pay-go standpoint and paying your power bill and payroll and stuff of that nature. Okay? Lastly, good news. Yesterday we received word from S&P that they were going to remove the negative credit watch on the Central Alabama Water, and they were going to affirm the AA- rating, and they were going to set us with a stable outlook. That is very good news, especially where they were back in February. When they were talking at that time, they reserved the right to actually pull the rating. So this is good news, and I recommend that everybody go out there and actually read the full report. It's some good information. And with that, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank this board for all the support and everything that y'all have done. I'm sorry that I took out your travel. Okay, but when we look at the bigger picture here, I think that what's been accomplished in a very short time period is impressive. So on behalf of Central Alabama, all the employees and members, thank you.
Kind of question.
Yes, sir.
Great presentation. I know we're supposed to get the monthly. Will you do this quarterly for us?
Yes, sir.
So we can see.
Yes, sir.
You explain. One thing to see it, but when you explain like you did, makes it easier to understand.
And one of the things that, you know, this is gonna be a living, breathing document. It's gonna continue to expand, and depending on what's happening within the organization on a quarterly basis, we may highlight different things. As you can tell, this presentation might have gone a little bit long. That's why we didn't include CapEx. CapEx really needs its own time because of how important it is to maintain the infrastructure. So yes. And we do put our monthly financials out on the website. January and February are already out there. Please keep in mind, just like this presentation, these are unaudited figures, but they are out there in March, the month of March, will be going out, hopefully next week. Yes, sir.
So this S&P rating action is huge for our customers. And it's a testament to the hard decisions that have had to be made to get our financial house in order. And so I want to commend the staff for all the work that they have put in over the last several months to get us to this point. And let's keep up the good work. Don't relent. We need to keep this rating positive for our customers. So thank you again.
Thank you all.
Thank
Yes, sir.
Listen, real quick, I know you said the financials are on the website, on the financial section up there, and I've looked there, and I appreciate you all putting those up there, especially for the public to review too, if the public wants to go see those. Is there a 2025 year-end summary on there that will compare budget for 2025 to actuals? And have we kind of finished that up for the previous fiscal year?
So currently, the 2025 financial year, the audit is not complete yet. The auditors came out, they began field work about 3 weeks ago. Okay. We do have unaudited financial information. I'll have to look to see if that has figured out there. But normally the plan is, and as we get in more of a routine, you'll at least have the unaudited financial statement along with all the statistical information that goes out. There's a lot of information that's being presented out there. So I'll check and make sure that the 2025.
When do we expect the audit to come back for 2025?
So I would love to have it June 30th. I'm not sure that I'm going to get that. Probably more realistic, maybe around August. It definitely has to be done by September 30th. Because this year we're having to have a single audit done because of the dollar amount of proceeds that we receive in federal funds, primarily with you, as well as we have received some local funds in the past year. So that filing's got to be filed with the federal audit clearinghouse by September 30th.
All right, has the auditing internal portion of the audits, not audits, the budgets for 2027, has that process started, or what does that process look like?
So we can talk about that process. The first thing that we'd like to do is we'd like to understand where we are from a rate setting standpoint. So as you all know, we'll be having our workshop starting in end of this month. The next thing is we need to have a good understanding of what our capital expenditure budget is. Capital expenditures can drive a lot of other costs, right? So we need to understand what that is. That'll be the next thing that comes before the board to be presented. There, what we'll do is we'll know what our revenue is, I'll know what I've got to spend on CapEx, and then we'll start rolling it into the actual operating budget. The plan is to kick off sometime in June or July. Okay, I want to get ahead of it this year so that we're not coming into December, right, at the end of the year trying to get budget approved.
And can we plan for budget workshops? I know Director Patton's asked for this a couple of times, some budget workshops where we can look at line item by line item and kind of, the grand overview is great, but I do think as board members, we want to see the line item type budgeting that goes on, and so we have questions on that line item basis as well. Which is something that I don't think we had with the amended budget or with the budget for 2025.
Correct. And that, starting it earlier is going to afford us the opportunity to get more granular as it relates to that data. That's what y'all want to see.
And I would appreciate that. I don't know about the rest of the board members, but I know I would appreciate seeing that.
Yes, sir.
I believe our capital budget is going to continue to be a challenge as long as these lawsuits that are preventing us from going to the capital markets are not resolved, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Great
all.
presentation. Moving along to item 2, we have item 2.1, 2.2, 2.3 regarding retirement of Mr. Darrell Stewart. He's a field service technician in the distribution department, 15 years and 2 months of service, and retired June 1st. Ms. Latonya Levert, purchasing manager, Percy King Department. She's been there for 32 years, and her effective date of retirement is June 1. And Mr. Antonio Brown, transportation superintendent in the logistics department for 34 years, 2 months of service. He's effectively retired on June 1st. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for a vote. All in favor of item 2, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Okay, item 3, request board to award bids to the following. 341, this is in regard to lawn service. Item 341, Elite Sweep LLC, as the lowest responsible and responsive bidder for the Shades Mountain Filter Plant that is effective May 12, 26 through May 11, 27, at a total out-of-pocket, or estimated out-of-pocket of $12,940, and authorize the chief executive officer to execute the agreement. Item 3.2 is just-in-time lawn care, lowest responsive bidder for the Western Filter Plant, May 12, 26 through May 11, 2027. Estimated out-of-pocket cost of the board of $13,000, and authorize the CEO to execute this agreement.
Move item
Have a motion.
and 3.2.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, would, like to ask,
Discussion. Yeah, into this, you know, well, after discussion, and Tim, could you give us some clarity on these? Executive. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. So what we're able to do is leverage our internal employees to assist with this project. So we were spending roughly $200,000 a year on grass cutting for 4 of our water treatment facilities. We were able to cut that back into a savings of about $120,000 a year for our regulators. And so Shades Mountain and Western Filter Plant are our 2 largest facilities. They have a lot of highway frontage, and so we have negotiated contracts with external vendors to cut those areas. That's employee safety that we're looking at. Our other 2 smaller facilities, we're able to handle those in-house. And so that, like I said, is a savings of $120,000 a year.
Good. Any other discussion? Question? All in favor of approving item 3, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Okay, item 4, request the board to enter into a reimbursable agreement with Alabama Department of Transportation and to enter into a utility consultants agreement with Neil Schaefer for the relocation of Central Alabama water facilities in conflict with Alabama project STPBA 5939-200. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm very familiar with this project. What is the timeline that we're looking at for the beginning of the moving of our utility lines on this road? I know exactly where this is and what's going on there.
Can you give us something?
Yes, sir, we're hopeful, beginning of 2027, January.
And so I guess the staging of that is first we move our utilities, all the utilities get moved, and then they begin with the bridge construction and road widening.
Construction is part of the construction project.
Okay. So that construction is scheduled then to begin in whole in January of 2027.
Yes, sir.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other comments or discussion?
No, the other comment I've got is zero cost to our residents or to our customers to pay for this utility move. You don't know how rare that is. So thank you guys.
Well, this through the state, this is better than mine. Now, we were up from a 6 to a 12, we had to pay the difference, but since we're putting the exact back in, the state pays us the exact cost, right?
Thank you.
Good, excellent, yeah.
Okay, call for a vote. All in favor of item 4, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Item number 5, request the board to approve a 3-year agreement with Doxon to implement a new customer payment portal platform effective May 13th, 2026 through May 13th, 2029 at 0 out-of-pocket cost to the board, and authorize the CEO to execute the agreement. This item is exempt from bidding because any fees charged are between the customer and Doxon, thus there is no cost to Central Alabama Water and therefore no expenditure of public funds. And Cameron, could you give us some public clarity on that?
Yeah, Hannah, could you advance that slide forward for me? So, there we go. So what you're looking at right now is the benefit that this service brings to the customer. So we want to be able to make it easier for our customers to come to the nearest possible location to pay their bills for those that are not able or willing to do it online. So this is a heat map of participating retailers in our metropolitan area and in our service coverage areas. So as you can see, we have dense coverage of retailers like Walmart, CVS, Family Dollar, Dollar General, and it's a very long list of retailers where you can go and you bring your paper bill, they scan the QR code, it pulls up your account, and you make your payment. So that simplifies the interaction tremendously for the customers. Also, it gives them the ability to pay ACH at 0 cost to them, and it gives the customer the ability to set a limit for automatic ACH withdrawals so that if anyone has any fear that what if I am overcharged, I as a customer could set a limit and say, okay, I will do automatic ACH up to X dollars. So I can set my limit at 100 and it'll auto ACH, but if it goes over, then I have to manually intervene. So that gives the customer the peace of mind that that bill, they will not be overcharged and they can do that themselves. For the organization, Central Alabama Water will immediately save $400,000 plus annually in printing costs for printing bills, as well as the imaging costs for when you go online to see your prior bills, you're pulling up images that have been scanned. So those costs will go away with this agreement because it's the same provider that prints those bills and scans those images. And they will help us with over 1 million emails a year to campaign to our customers, as well as specialized messaging on our bills to help drive them to the payment platform and other options to get away from printed and mailed bills, because we currently spend over $1.2 million a year in postage. So everyone that goes online or pays electronically is driving that down, and this partner will help us to do that. So there's a significant savings to be had going forward and a tremendous benefit to our customer.
Is there a cost to the ratepayer?
The cost of the ratepayer for ACH is $0. If you pay by credit, you pay a 3% credit card fee, just like you would anywhere else where that cost is transferred to the consumer.
So Cameron, approximately how many total locations will be available for customers to pay their bill at?
I'll have to get the total number locally, but as you can see here, there's what appears to be a few hundred on that map. And in fact, if you zero in on where our office is located, you can see that there's dense options right there in the heart of the city of Birmingham, and expanding out into the 459 ring and so on and so forth. So there's I can get you an exact count from the partner, but as you can see from the heat map, it's pretty dense.
Yeah, so if I'm interpreting this right, so like 9, that means there's 9 locations on this heat map.
Underneath that dot, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
under all this. So this is significantly more locations, where in the past, we really only had one where they come to our office to pay. Now, this will be much more convenient for our customers to pay their bills, correct?
Correct. You don't have to go very far to find a place to pay the bill.
That's great. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve this item.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
So,
Mr. Chairman, there's one more piece of that I'd like to add. And Bill, you may be familiar with this, the CCR that we're required to mail out every year, the Consumer Confidence Report. So in 2027, we'll be required to mail that out 2 times a year. Last year, we spent almost $80,000 with that. So we partnered with Dobson, working with Cameron and his group, and we have cut that fee down less than $10,000 by putting stop cards in with our billing system, encouraging folks. All they have to do is just click a URL code and they go straight to the CCR report, but on the other side of the card, we're encouraging folks to sign up for e-billing as well.
That's the water quality report that
Yes, sir.
all, yes.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
So that, it's multi-benefit.
Okay. Call for a vote. Item number 5, a 3-year contract with Dobson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, item number 6, requests board to approve an agreement with Warren Everett, CPAs and advisors to perform a business process review procedures and other consulting services as reasonably requested by Central Alabama Water, effective May 12, 2026 through December 31, 2030, and to authorize the CEO to execute the agreement. Let's try to provide some additional clarity on that.
Yes, so, okay. The purpose for this engagement is to ensure that as CAW continues to implement new processes, new procedures, new systems, that we have a documentation of what those processes are from an internal control environment perspective. Right? You want to be more proactive on the front end and coming in on the back end once systems are already set up, and then identify that there's segregation of duties issues or authorization issues. So what we're engaging with Warren Everett to do is to come in, work side by side, the teams that will be implementing some of these initiatives, and ensuring that we have strong internal controls in place to protect the organization.
Good, thank you. Any questions or comments? Shan, what do you have?
Yeah, I just noticed this. If we could make that go to May 11th, 29, rather than December 31, 2030, just want to make sure that we comply with state law.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Call for vote. Item number 6.
We need a motion. So I make a motion
Go
to
ahead, yeah.
approve item 6 with an amendment to change the date to May 11th of 2029.
second.
Okay, so you're
December 31st of 2030 to May 11th of 2029 in order to comply with state law on a three-year period.
Correct.
No change. All right, I'm gonna call for a vote on that motion to comply with Alabama law. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Okay, now we'll vote on, or consider item number 6 as amended with the new dates that were just called out by Director Wiedemeyer. Okay. So, all right. Item number 7, request board to retain CFI Consulting, Inc. for workers' compensation actuarial services for Central Alabama for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2026, based on 2025 claims at an out-of-pocket cost of the board of $9,500, and to authorize the chief executive officer to execute the agreement. We have some clarity.
Yes, so Central Alabama Water is self-insured as it relates to workers' compensation. As a result of that, there's a requirement from the Department of Labor that every 3 years we have to receive an actuarial opinion. The last one that we received was in 2023, and that was issued in 2024, I believe February 2024. So this will cover the 2026 year in, and the opinion should be issued sometimes in 2027.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve item 7.
Second. Call for a vote. All in question.
Lester, I know I talked to Jeff, he was gonna talk about municipal insurance versus self-insured. What's the best in your opinion, or, I know y'all had some pretty weird payouts based on your community's recommendation, back in the day, so how do we move forward?
My recommendation is that after this audit is done, we review our situation and determine whether or not it makes sense for Central Alabama to be self-insured, right? Currently, we're self-insured up to $600,000 per occurrence in a 12-month period. So I think that we've been self-insured for some time now. I think it behooves us to look to see, does it still make sense?
Any other questions or discussion? Okay. Call for a vote on number 7 to retain FTI Consulting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Okay, item number 8, request board to approve the management agreement of 100 Lucerne by Standard Commercial Real Estate, DBA Colliers of Alabama, from May 12, 2026 to April 30, 2029, at a cost of $1,125 per month, and authorize the CEO to execute the agreement.
So, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So we are now under lease with POR on the 100 Lucerne building, and they've taken occupancy. And this is a request to allow Colliers or Standards to manage the property on our behalf. It's a 3% fee, and that's standard in the industry. I've seen besides 5, so a 3% fee is of the rental income is a fair price.
And they're performing that service now.
That's correct. They are.
Any other questions or discussion?
Mr. Chairman, it makes sense to me that, we're not in the business of leasing property, so this is exact, we don't have subject matter experts with experience with leasing property. So it does make sense to outsource that to professionals who do this as a matter of their course. So, so I make a motion to approve, item 8. And I also would note that, it's what it is because it's a professional service item. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, I make a motion to approve number 8.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion or question? Okay, call for a vote. All in favor of item number 8, say aye.
Aye.
No, if you oppose. Okay, item number 9, request the board to approve a one-year agreement with Itron Inc. to implement to Mitra, a cloud-based meter data management software system effective May 12, 2026 through May 11, 2027, at an estimated out-of-pocket cost of the board of $110,109.88, and authorize the CEO to execute the agreement.
Move the item.
Second.
Second. All right, any discussion?
Sure, I can talk about it for a minute.
Right?
Demetra is a meter data management system. It's software and it has multiple benefits for our customers and our organization. One of the main things it does is it provides new software for our meter readers to read the meters. So it GPSs and timestamps every time they take a reading. The goal here is to provide more transparency to our customers so they can see into our meter reading processes and our billing processes. It provides route optimization for those readers to make sure that they're going the most efficient route that they can. It saves those so that you can always go back and read it the way that it needs to be read. It notifies those meter readers when the readings are too high to take pictures. Those pictures will be uploaded into a customer portal. So the customers will be able to see the pictures of their readings. They'll be able to set consumption alarms so that they'll get a notification that they set that if the bill is 20% higher than normal or if it's above a certain amount, they'll get that notification. The bulk of this is to implement it with our billing system. This will also provide us a very seamless transition into AMI once we make that transition. It's meter agnostic, so whichever vendor is chosen in the future, this system will work with any of the AMI vendors that are out there. It's very user-friendly and provides customer dashboards. And one of the things I'm most excited about is non-revenue water management. It comes with a year of VODA AI, and VODA AI allows you to predict where leaks are going to occur, create virtual DMAs so you can limit your or focus your leak finding to the certain areas that have high losses. It tracks our meter consumptions so we can see when meters are starting to fail and have mechanical wear, gives us alerts so that we can target those issues much faster.
When are we going to the 21st century with this?
That's a great question. As soon as possible. I know that as an executive staff, we're very excited about that. We've got a project going on to do studies for the financial impacts and then how we can fund that. So I expect the project to cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $60 to $70 million to fully implement AMI. If we could add an amendment. But as soon as possible, that's the answer. We are one of the very few utilities in central Alabama that's still manually reading water meters. In fact, all the systems that we sell to in the country, you're right, all the systems that we sell to are doing automatic meter reading. It's big savings for the customers and also offers a tremendous amount of transparency. Customers are used to this kind of thing. Your power bill works this way, gas bill works this way. Definitely need to go.
I have a question, Larry. If we pass and if, I'm going to Washington anyway with my company, if y'all go rate, I know Itron will have a booth there. Y'all need to go to Itron and that rate, when you see it firsthand, it makes a difference, and it's a great selling point, and Your bill, I just don't understand where he's going with it, so.
Absolutely. It's one of the most user-friendly softwares that I've ever worked with. If you can drop by their booth, they'll have a very large booth. They'll be happy to give you a presentation of all the things and let you see it in a live system.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with Director Patton's comments. We need to get in the 21st century. And as soon as this lawsuit is settled, resolved, and preventing us from going to the capital markets, we got $70 million, we can't pay for that today unless we're able to go to the capital markets. So I think this will, once that suit is resolved, we'll be able to prioritize AMI.
Thank you. I have a motion.
Make a motion to approve item 9.
Second. I'll second. Any further discussion or questions? Okay, call for a vote on item number 9. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Okay, item number 10, request board to approve a 5-year agreement with Truck Works to manage large fleet vehicles associated with Central Alabama Water effective May the 12th, 2026, at an out-of-pocket cost of more $230,000 and authorize the CEO to execute the agreement. David, I think you had to
Yes, sir, we have received notice. As the board may remember, we worked with Enterprise last meeting to manage the small fleet. And while engaging with them, we started looking at options to manage the large fleet, roughly F-550s and above. Everyone knows Ray's team has a multitude of big rigs, from dump trucks, leak trucks, crew cab vehicles that go around and install pipes and find leaks for us. So what TruckWorks does is they're the umbrella of PACCAR, which is a Sourcewell company. And over the past 5+ years, we've bought over 30 Kenworth vehicles from TruckWorks. So in this contract, they would manage the repairs, leasing through TruckWorks. One thing while diving into this contract I've learned is, as the EPA gets more and more stringent with diesel emissions, if you own those big rigs, that entity must pay for the new and improved EPA emissions. So if we start leasing the vehicles, that cost now goes to TruckWorks versus Central Alabama Water, and those estimated upgrades could be at least $30,000 per vehicle, and we own over 30+ of those big vehicles. So this would be a way to streamline costs, level out costs, and keep the fleet current, so as we never get to the end of the life of a vehicle where the maintenance costs of these big trucks are significant.
Tim, so last year alone, we spent $4.5 million on this fleet alone. And so we're looking at leveraging that with TruckWorks.
Very substantial savings.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion on item 10 to amend it, to make it, my understanding is that we've not been able to complete a legal review of the contract. So I would make a motion to amend this, approve this, contingent upon legal review of the contract with TruckWorks.
I'll second that.
Okay, any other comments or discussion? Do I have a motion we approve? Well, let's consider the amendment, to make approval of item 10 contingent upon, contractual agreements. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I think the motion has been made.
Okay, call for a vote just on the amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I think the motion was with the amendment in it already. I think it was straight up vote.
Okay, then I'm gonna call for a vote. All in favor of approving item 10 as amended, say aye. Okay, item number 12, which is added to 11. 11. So item number 11.
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman,
Chairman, I
I'll
make
make
a
a,
motion to approve, item 11.
Could you restate that?
Yeah.
Amendment?
So this is a resolution to retain the law firm of Betts and Bevel, to file a claim, on behalf of Central Alabama Water in the Discover Card interchange fee and trust litigation class action for Discover charge overcharges for a period between 2007 and 2023.
second.
Second. Any discussion? You see the law, you see the agreement with the law firm, is it okay?
Yes.
So the motion is to adopt the.
Right, to retain that.
Okay, with regard to item 11, we'll call for vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Okay, now on item 12, regarding travel expenses.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we amend the budget to allow for board members' travel and AWWA fees for ACE in the amount of $28,000.
So that's for 4 members,
For all board members, available to all. Subject to travel policy.
Second. Okay. Any discussion?
So, objective, so really we just need to move it a line item, you don't have to amend the budget, just move the line item. Just move the line item.
So I'll amend to move the line item then.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
If Director Patton will second.
that. You got it right now? Okay, so seconded. Any discussion or questions? Call for a vote, item 12, regarding the travel discussed and the $28,000 expense. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That's it.
Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion
Mr. Chairman, before we where are we with, the lawsuit with the city of Birmingham? What's the status?
There's something in the executive session.
I just,
You want, wait, if you want to know the status, I mean, my understanding is, it's been briefed, it's with the judge now, the motion's to dismiss, is my understanding.
that's your understanding.
All right, the Judge Manasco has the cases, there are 2 cases. The older case, it's my understanding it's under review. The second case, the Muhammad case, which she entered an order, telling them to amend their pleading if they wanted to stay in court. So that's probably a better statement, but it's in her. The Muhammad plaintiffs have to amend their complaint to stay in court.
So there's nothing that's going to be done by Friday? Just yes or no?
I don't know of a new one.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Yes.
Hey, I'd just like to say, I appreciate everybody being here in my home county. I appreciate the work that the staff here at the facility did, and our staff put this together. I just appreciate that. And my wife came in, she made it in from another event. I want to acknowledge her. She's the author of her book hit #1 over the weekend on Amazon. So as a bestseller, so it's significant, I think, for
You know it took an hour to get here.
Let me make a further comment to, well, I ordered a copy the other day. It's extremely interesting. It goes well beyond just recipes, and from my way, the recipes are fantastic as well. So,
Did you bring samples?
One or two in the car.
So here's one here.
Look at my child.
I've been requested to get it signed by my wife.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?